Shabbat Shalom. Um, I basically want to read something that I wrote just a few minutes ago, actually. I just finished it a few minutes ago, so I just want to read it and put it out there in the atmosphere. So, this is what I wrote. Growing is a process. You have made it to the point you see that you have not obtained everything that is capable of being known. Your depth is great in the shallow end. The longer you live, the more you see that as far as information, you have barely gotten wet. The shallow end doesn't cover us. We can get our whole body wet, but we're not submerged in it, so you really haven't gotten as wet as you could. So I say all this to express this. I don't know Hebrew. I've been dealing with the Hebrew language for a minute, so when I say no here, I'm using it more like how the Hebrew language would say no. I don't have the level of intimacy, the in depth. So basically, I'm at a novice level of intimacy. Yet, even so, I can now see how much of a disservice the English language has done or does to the Tanakh. Tanakh being what we call the Old Testament. It's supposed to all be wrote in Hebrew and Aramaic. The Hebrew language that I am walking in some level of authority over actually helps me see that at best I am a mature baby. Of course, you can see I'm a grown man, but when it comes to spiritual aspects, I've always thought myself to have a maturity, but in truth, the Ruach is assisting me so much and I have to depend on that. And there's nothing wrong with that because as you are acknowledging your lesser points or that you're weak, he becomes strong in you. So, okay, that the Ruach has greatly supported me on this journey as well as grace. Humbling all the same. It's a humbling situation. One can see why I was once offended by my level of comprehension being challenged. I get it. And so when I challenge other people, I can see why they're offended. And thus not take it so harshly when those being also awakened after me enter their humbling season. Offense is actually a good thing. I say this so often to people and people they don't really embrace it. I've been married, gonna be 23 years. It's only been 22 years, but out of the offenses that I've had in my marriage, it showed me how to love my wife more and better. It basically also showed me the lines, or I could see the boundaries that I should not cross. I had to learn those, and I learned those through offense. And now I choose not to cross those boundaries. Accidentally crossing those things, again, brings forth offense. But then when you actually make the choice, when the opportunity to cross to not, that's growth. Without those offenses, I would not know those boundaries and I would not be able to make the choice not to out of love. In relationships, we can be offended, but when you give someone the opportunity to choose not to offend you further in that situation, your bond strengthens. But again, let me get here back to reading. I'm reading something that's on my screen, and of course, I could share it, but I'd rather just keep reading. Okay, offense is actually a good thing as it identifies a challenge has been received to that person's paradigm. Your paradigm is your way of thinking. It's basically you, but it's it's more in depth than that. But let me keep going. Now, what is the response to offense is the real opportunity for growth and leveling up. Take samples and small bites at the Hebrew meaning of things that you once believed you knew, and be open to more context and even a shift that solidifies your prior beliefs or shatters that belief. The principles that once produced now should be becoming established. The principles that once produced now, so the new principles that you get out of this, the that once produced now should be becoming established upon a foundation that truth grows. Your foundation should be a new foundation, and it should be growing firm, and you should be able to put truth on top of it. Truth should be able to grow on it, i.e., or here's an example. Now, this is my perspective, so of course, maybe you may not agree, but let's go. Love thy neighbor. I learned this phrase and this term through Christianity, but of course, the perspective I don't believe is matching the true Hebrew or perspective of the Bible. But let me keep reading. Love thy neighbor. One that has this principle can see peace. Loving those, the people that live next door to me, if I consider them my neighbor, I can have peace with them. But that's not the true concept of what love thy neighbor is. So let's keep going. One that has this principle based on proper context can see shalom. Shalom is the Hebrew word for peace, but it does not exactly come about without friction, I guess, or offense or whatever. To me, it's basically what's necessary to bring the result of peace, but it's something that is the end result, basically. So you got to look into that word a little bit depth, because some people just, think that the absence of offense or absence of conflict is peace, but no, sometimes conflict has to happen for peace to be the result. But anyway, neighbor could include any and everyone around us. Yet the proper context was that Yasharal, the chosen people of Yahuwah, were to be separated from other people, thus set apart. Yasharal is a collection of 13 tribes, the 12 sons of Yaqub. But you got to remember, Yosef was divided into Manasseh and Ephraim. So that totals is actually 13 tribes. The Levites don't have a possession, so they are set to the side. You can kind of see the example of how Aaron was the high priest, but Moses was his brother, but he was on the side. And Aaron was the one dealing with all the people, and Moses was kind of like Elohim to him and spoke through him. But anyway, that's a whole nother narrative. Let's keep going. 12 tribes surrounding one tribe. This is is right. I think it's in Numbers. It describes this. All 12 having continual access to the one tribe. All the 12 tribes have continual access to the Levites. 3 tribes north of the one, which of the Levites. 3 tribes south of the one, that's of the Levites. 3 tribes west of the one, of the Levites, and 3 tribes to the east of one, neighbors to one another, set apart from all others that have not cleaved in one of the 12 borders. So you could have people that are from other nations, but they would have to come inside cleaving to the nation or the tribe that they were connected to. So they basically took on a name, almost like a bride would take on the name of her husband. Yeah, she was a part of a family prior, but she gets rid of her maiden name and now takes on the name of her husband. So, you would take upon the name of Israel or Yasharal. Where are you native born? No. But you now become through basically adoption or marriage. But anyway, all right. Love thy neighbors is significantly speaking of unity among kinsmen, wholeness of a body. The principle in English is not an issue, yet does not reach the true objective, which is the Basora. Basora, many would say, is the gospel, or but that word gospel actually means God spell, and it's not a good term for what the Basora is. Glad tidings and good news is what we were told that the gospel meant, and that's what the Basora means. But God spell or gospel is not a good terminology. But let me keep going. The Basora, many teach, is that Yahusha is the good news. People take offense when I say this and they think that I'm against Yahusha, but no, Yahusha is not the good news. If there was never a severance of mankind and Yah and how he set things up, there would be no need to have someone to redeem. If there's never a breach, there's never a need for a redeeming person. Yahusha serves a purpose. Yahusha is great. I would bow to Yahusha because he is still the son of my king, my sovereign, Yahuwah. So I would give him reverence. And he's still the high priest. He's the mediator. He's the person, the go-between person. Yet that does not mean I can't go forth to the Father on my own, but I still have to acknowledge the high priest. They had a dynamic, even in the Torah, that spoke of the high priest. The high priest would bring forth offering for the people. All these things still in place. It's just a different. It went from a physical thing to a spiritual thing. But anyway, let me keep reading. But Yahushua himself teaches that the good news, the Basora, is the kingdom dominion of Yahuwah. Yahusha is always talking about the kingdom, the kingdom, the kingdom all day. That's what he's talking about is good news. The rule and the reign, that the will be done of Yahuwah. Yahusha is imparting the will of Yahuwah, not his own will, but the will of Yahuwah. Okay. Yahusha is of a great importance as he mends the breach that disrupted the order in which was established in Bereshit. This is what we call Genesis, which is called Genesis. The beginnings, it's amazing how it says in the beginning, but yet some of the words, lead to you thinking or hearing that Elohim was amongst others in his creation process. So where did those others come? If that's the beginning, where's the story? But people want to act as if the Bible is exhaustive. But anyway, back to what I'm talking about. The image of Yahuwah was to function in dominion over the earth realm. That's what Adam was supposed to do. Man was supposed to function as um, the proxy or the representative of Yah on earth. He was not supposed to be the king of earth because Yah was still the king, but he was supposed to be his representative and his physical representation. He was the image. So, yet the image, Adam abdicates the reign. He gave over the reign by his disobedience. He abdicates the reign through disobedience to Yahuwah. The good news is that the kingdom and its dominion is restored, and the Son of Yahuwah was the key and door. See, it's so hard for people to not really grasp the full concept of Yahusha. If a body is whole, the head must be connected to that body. If a body is whole, the body must be connected to the head. They are one. Yet the head is the governing or the deciding factor. My head right now is what's moving my hand, but these are part of one body. So Yahusha is representative of one body. That collection of tribes, that collection of neighbors is Yahusha. So all of Israel, Yasharal, all of the obedient blood, biological blood, Yasharal, are Yahusha. The collective of neighbors is Yahuwah is salvation. Yahusha means Yahuwah's salvation. Yahusha restored the dominion that was to be had on earth for man. In doing so, as the head over Yasharal, connected as a body, it set forth that his body, Exodus 4:22, can now be priesthood over all other nations. So this high priest got the priest in line so that now the priests can be who they are to be to all the other peoples of the earth. But it's still one kingdom. All right. The head and the body are one, set apart and welcoming others that are willing to cleave within their borders and with their love and with the love of Yahuwah. So Yah gave forth his son. Many will say he gave forth Yahusha. True. But he also gave forth Yasharal. If we are going to be the royal priests over other people, we have to also be given to the people. Yahusha served. Thus, his body must serve. What? Yahusha came for the world, which if you go to John 18:20, it shows that the world at that time was speaking of the Yahudim. It was only speaking about them. It was not speaking about the whole earth. It was only speaking about those people. Yet, you can't stop there. The principle, yes, is the whole world. But the whole focus at that time is that, as he said in Matthew 15:23 and 24, I only come for the lost sheep of Israel. When you say that, so many people take it as, oh, you're trying to divide. But yes, it is a dividing situation because Israel, the people of Yah, are supposed to be set apart. That means divided from everyone else. Now, for everyone else, they can connect by cleaving, by obeying. So they have to come in. It's not just, oh, we gonna get them, go get them. No, you got to come in, submit it. You got to come in. You have to cleave. The salvation is for Israel alone. Yet the benefit of it benefits all if they come in obedience and cleave. What is everyone else being saved from? We have this narrative that salvation is like, oh, saved from doom yes, Israel was the one that had to be, they were supposed to be the head, and yet they're the tail. So now they have to be saved from that condition of being subject to every other nation and now come back to the headship. They have to become Yahusha. The body must become what the head is. Just like Yahusha was able to sacrifice himself in obedience, so also the body must do it. You have to be able to take on the same death to yourself. I'm not going to say take up the cross because that we don't deal with the cross. That's not what he died on. He died on wood. It was not a cross. A stauros more so, but that's paganism. That's an idol. We don't deal with that. The focus is not on a piece of wood or an object. The focus is on the kingdom being restored, his dominion. That is the focus. Yahusha happened to be a part of the process, but Yahusha is not the totality of the process. He is a big part. But again, a head without his body is perverse. So even though the head is a big part, you cannot ignore the hand. You cannot ignore the foot. Cannot ignore any of the body parts. But the focal point is always the one who sent Yahusha and not Yahusha himself. And that is Yahuwah. I am never taken away from Yahusha, but we cannot get so focused on him that we ignore and forget who sent him. That he is a servant, as we are to be servants to the king, the actual king, the one who decided and wanted to be our sovereign, but we rejected him in 1 Samuel 8. But okay, keep going. Yahusha is representative of one body. That collection of tribes, that collective of neighbors is Yahusha. That collective of neighbors is Yahuwah is salvation. The head and the body are one, set apart and welcoming others that are willing to cleave within their borders and with their love and with the love of Yahuwah, thus finishing the work that was preordained. That the kingdom established in the Shamayim, heaven, be also manifest, one, the erects, as in heaven. So, what is this? What is the model prayer? Our Father, which art in heaven, Yahuwah. Our Father, which art in heaven, thy will be done, thy kingdom come on earth as is in heaven, on earth as is in heaven. Our Father, which art in heaven, thy will be done, thy kingdom come on earth as is in heaven. Not we going to heaven, but a part of heaven is coming down to earth. Yahusha, a part of heaven, came down to earth. The throne of Yahuwah, which was already on earth in Adam, but Adam abdicated. So now the second Adam sits on that throne as the image of Yahuwah, not Yahuwah himself, but his image, his proxy, his representative on earth as is in heaven. His love, which brings forth chastening and correction on earth, one body, that all nations of people, not as their nations, but as people themselves, because their nations are going to be cast away, but they can come into and cleave to Yasharal and become part of that oneness, because the priests have a job, and that is to be servant to Yah and serve the people of Yah, those that obey his will, those who cleave to Yasharal. Yahuwah will be done. All praises to the Most High. Yod, Dalet, Hey. Yod, Hey, Wah, Hey. Yada, Yahuwah. Yada, Yahuwah. Yada, Yahuwah. All praises be to our sovereign. Shabbat Shalom. Shankwil Yah, One Vision Ministry. Thank you for listening to me read something I wrote last night. Shalom.